Welcome back to the HQ.
The HQ.
We in San Quentin recording.
Out here, we just got done watching Red One.
Yeah, honestly, I think what the Russo brothers are doing is really revolutionizing the industry.
We need more AI.
Yeah, shout out Aronofsky, my AI homie. We get on Gronk together.
We get on Gronk.
Yeah, we've been hanging out in the Gronk chat.
We opened up that new Google AI, and we're just like, dude, we don't need VFX artists anymore.
I talked to Zuckerberg. I was like, yo, how can I get that ad space?
Top to bottom, working class frame rate. I am. Hold on. What up, y'all? It's working class frame rate. Oh my god, I got my balls in my throat right now.
Good.
Me.
That's what I'm saying. Get it out of your system.
All right, let's do it.
Welcome.
Let me get my notes ready. Do you have your notes ready?
Yeah,
let's get our notes ready.
I have my notes ready.
Okay. I got them too, bro. Shit. All right, welcome back to Working Class Frame Rate. This is host Sway Arellano. You're here. I'm here with your host,
Austin Cummings.
And we just finished rewatching All That Jazz. And for a little bit of context, first of all, if you haven't seen All That Jazz, what the fuck are you doing?
Instant watch.
Yes.
Stop what you're doing and view it.
Yeah, and also, I said that as if I had watched this like years ago. Like
we're veterans.
Real film. But we both watched this for the first time, like 2 months ago?
At the Frida
Cinema. So we were able to experience this on the big screen for the first time.
Yeah.
And it was actually so surreal that we were left stunned as we walked out. But even then, we recorded at a theater like little review. We just ranted about it, and then we came back home, and then we yapped about it for 45 minutes, which was the original episode. But you will never get to hear that one.
Never. It's in the vault.
We felt like this movie deserved its own episode where we really fleshed out our thoughts. We sat down and we wrote about it.
A little more contemplation.
Yes, and All That Jazz, for those of you guys who don't know, is it's like a semi-autobiographical
biographical film by the choreographer and filmmaker Bob Fosse.
Shout out Bob Fosse. And
Fosse.
If Bob Fosse is anything like Joey,
Fosse.
then he was an asshole. He was an asshole. And this movie, this movie is about a man who is fully addicted to the grind and the grind only, to the point where
his work is his life.
His work is his life. It's so much so that he doesn't even care about himself. Not his ex-wife, not his daughter, not
his physical health,
nothing.
Not
he
even
doesn't give a shit about anything.
Compatriots.
Yeah,
it's pure egotism and hedonism.
Yeah, and so again, if you have not seen this movie, I highly recommend it. It's a little bit of under a runtime of 2 hours, and it is a fantastic watch. It's not even that long, but my God.
Also to add, it flows like a breeze. It's
2
hours that will just like evaporate before you.
Something I also noticed on the rewatch, how fast it went. Like I was shocked. I was like, holy shit!
I was actually
so much
worried.
Happening.
I was like studying for my final, and I was like, okay, like because I had to pay attention, And the way I was like, dude, I'm already halfway through this movie.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize it had flowed by.
Yeah.
I was so like locked in.
It's a beautiful movie. If you have not watched, I highly recommend you pause this episode and then you come back and join us in the discussion, because we'd love to hear everybody's thoughts on this. And we're gonna dive in. And so again, if you have not seen, we're going to get into spoilers. We're gonna talk everything about this movie. So if you have not seen All That Jazz, go ahead and watch it. It should be online. If not, rip it off online. It's on the library archive online, so you can find it.
Or if you're a little bougie like that, get the Criterion.
Get the Criterion. Yes, sir. So let's hop right back into All That Jazz. Yeah,
the jazz.
Let's hop into the music. I do want to point out that the opening scene hit so much harder this time for me, because I was watching it and I just noticed, I was like, okay, eye drops, medicine, shower, cigarette and shower. But the thing that stood out to me was the cigarette and shower, because I'm just like, you're fucking stupid.
Dude, you know what I realized? Also, like, how fucking unhealthy he looks then. Like, that shot of him being like, it's showtime. There is you can just see the strain in his face already. Like, you haven't even gotten to dive into the actual like work ethic of him, but just already you're like, ooh, there's some wear and tear on this man.
And dude, I honestly, I did not see the wear and tear as much. I think maybe because I'm in the rewatch, I'm just like experiencing everything. I always try to start like from fresh. I didn't really see much, but now that you're mentioning it, I definitely do think, I'm like, damn, yeah, he was already kind of fucked up. But maybe you're just being ageist, and you're just like, yeah, brother was
it's the point of the bender where everything's still kind of cool. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and that's the whole point of the cigarette. The cigarette, I noticed, I was like, why would you smoke in a cigarette? And I thought to myself, I'm like, oh my God, as an opening sequence, this is so crazy, because it shows us he's on meds, he's taking eye drops. drops, and even in the shower, he's still smoking because he's got to keep the addiction going.
Yeah.
And I label this the machine. This sequence to me was the machine. It was like, no matter how bad shit gets, no matter how fucked up I treat my family, no matter how fucked up I am physically and destroying my health, the machine must go on. And that's why he says, what does he say? It's showbiz, baby.
What does he say? It's showtime.
It's showtime. Yeah, it's showtime.
Well, and you can sense that it's like this is his lifestyle. Like it's not like he's sort of operated in a way where those addictions are his life as well. Yeah. It's like he doesn't. It's like most normal people would just be like, okay, like I'm gonna work and then have my leisure time. Yeah. The leisure is the work. Like it's part. It's baked in the fabric of everything. Yeah, it doesn't stop. He's just a roller coaster when he's asleep. The only time he literally has any peace in this movie is when he's asleep. That's it.
Yeah, even when he is hooking up with the girls that he has on the side. Like the first time he hooks up with a girl, another girl comes in and causes chaos.
Well, and like I also noticed this on this rewatch is that his reaction is kind of bold because it's like instead of being like, "Oh, I was just caught in an act of infidelity," he just kind of goes, "Wow," and then he just immediately starts flirting with the girl.
That's what I wrote down in my notes too. I was like, bro, just got caught, and then he's just like looking at her nipple, like, "Yeah, can I suck on these?"
And he said, "Here, I'll deal with it later."
He's like, "Mommy,"
He was just like, he's like, "But there's cake in front of me."
Right.
What do I do?
You know, he's like, "Yeah."
He shrugged that shit off. He just said,
Like the worst kind of person. And okay, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but I do want to talk about the opening sequences about...
I actually wrote a line from that scene.
Oh, talk to me. Yeah, what's the line?
To be on a wire is life. Everything else is waiting.
You know, it's funny. Okay, what does that line mean to you?
So, well, I think it sort of encapsulates his ethos. Like, he's just... Like, he loves the chase, the grind. He doesn't... I feel... Because... To add some context, he's just a guy that doesn't reflect. Yeah. And I think as a way of sort of subtly combating it, he doesn't give himself the time to fucking think about it because he's always on one. He's just ready, set, go, 0 to 100.
Yeah.
So when I think that line, it was like beautiful. It's like right there, and then the image of him just with the light on him on the wire, I was like, that's our guy. Like I already can tell volumes about his character.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I more so related to the line that the woman in the veil, who we can talk about later, the woman in the veil says, the woman in the veil says to him, like, what does that even mean? Like, bro just yapping. Bro just yapping. And she was like, so I was just like, I heard it and I was like, okay, I guess, I was like trying to be like, And then she was just like, yeah, that line kind of sucked. Yeah. I was like, yeah, what the fuck? Like,
well, even he's just like, I didn't even think of it. Like, he's literally spitballing. He's flirting with death.
Literally flirting with death. And we can talk about more about the woman in veil. Let's go back to the contestant scene, right? So it's going back to the beginning of this movie.
Yes.
How we were talking about the line. I was noticing when the contestants were trying out. So there's like hundreds of them, right? There's so fucking many.
It's like a mass audition.
So many. And you could tell there's some people that just blatantly suck. The camera was like on this dude who was so offbeat. He was awful. But here's the thing, like quickly we learn that this dude's work is so respected that when he rejects them, they don't even like complain. They just know a master's at work. They're just like, bet. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's a level.
They almost like apologize to him.
Well, yeah, you can. It's like the seniority that's projected by him, and sort of the level of respect is almost just like it's beyond him. It's beyond words. Yeah, everyone just feels it in the room.
Yeah, I felt that.
No, because I agree with you. Because what I love about that scene too is it sort of captures that sort of command of his power within the scene, I guess, of dancing.
Yep.
It also allows you to see him kind of disarm you, where he's this massive figure that people respect and adore. Yeah. And then he just comes up to you, and without even sort of making you feel like, oh, you're under him, or he's not condescending. He just quips a joke, and he's he makes him smile, and he's like, he's infectious.
Yes.
It's like,
yes.
And you don't get this sense of pretension with him.
And funny to what you're saying, you're learning about him through this scene. I was writing down, like, I'm already picking up a lot about him, even if I hadn't seen the movie for the this is my second time. I wrote down smoker, cocaine, womanizer immediately. And we get that line when he's going down the line with all the contestants, and he looks at Victoria, right?
Yeah.
And he says, Victoria, is that your real home phone
number?
And what does he do? She smirks at him, and he walks away. He's so smooth about it. He's just like,
he holds eye contact. Yeah, before he even turns, he just has this little gaze. It's like, ooh,
like,
okay.
I'm gonna call you later.
Yeah,
and he's so it almost pisses you off. You're like, oh god, he's good.
It's literally the thinnest veil of like flirting versus harassment, and he somehow does not go into harassment
between HR and
no, he's literally like any other guy doing this, you'd just be like shuddering, like
yeah.
But he's so good about it. He's so disarming.
Oh my god, and they flutter at him. They love him.
Yeah,
and
he knows
him.
It.
Yeah,
that's part of it. That's another thing about the scene too. Is like, as much as he is not pretentious, he knows his worth. And it's like you never like think to yourself, oh, he doesn't know he's the shit, kind of like. But he doesn't like have to rub it in your face. He just knows.
He just knows. I mean,
he's secure in himself.
Dude, he goes up to the other woman who's like who's trying out. He's like, weren't you like in one of my plays? And she was like, yeah, like I was in one of your plays. He's like,
how's the choreographer?
He's like, was like, yeah, oh yeah. She said, he's like, how was the choreographer? He's like, or who knows? No. He says, who was the choreographer?
That's right.
And then she's like, well, you were. And he's like, well, how was it? She was like, it was good. He's like,
he's fantastic. And he goes, see, that's how you get a job.
Yeah. Dude, we were talking about this. This movie's so fucking funny, bro. Like, it's so funny. And again, as we're starting this movie, you're starting to recognize who he is, right? And so we get this audition scene, and everyone that's trying out, we quickly, he goes up to the execs, he's talking to them who he wants to pick, yada, yada. And also, I think, now that I'm thinking about it out loud, he tells them, I know the women that I want.
Yeah. No, he says it so confident, like, with the most like stone face emotion,
like he's not gonna get tested. Like why the women? He they just know.
Well, and it's also like you realize, is that why you were just there? Because he only picked mostly women. So I was like, he kind of like, it's like for him, it's like even in his work ethic, his personality still pops. Like he can't let the dog out. He can't put the dog away. You know what I mean?
No. And then we quickly get to realize that the older woman and the daughter in the back. Mm-hmm. That is his ex-wife and his daughter's in the back while
as he's flirting.
Yeah, and he's so unapologetic about it. And that's when we learned that that's his ex. Well, we don't know it's his ex-wife. We think it might be his wife or partner.
You just know it's the mother of his child, but you don't know how deep the relation goes.
And I mean, we instantly learned though, because he goes up and she says, his daughter, they're talking, and what did she say? She had promised his daughter to show up for her that weekend, and he's like, like, I'm sorry, I have work. It's not even like an event.
No.
He's like, I just got work, like, I'm sorry. And like, as he leaves, he's like, you promised. Yeah. And he stops at the door of the theater, and he says, like, am I a shitty person? Like, am I a shitty father? Yeah. And he is.
Well, he is, but that's also, because I think it's funny because as a character, most deadbeat father portrayals, it's like scummy. And it is scummy here.
It is scummy.
But it's like, they also add this nuance of self-awareness where, like, it doesn't sort of, like, sit with him long enough to be like, oh, he's, like, begrudging his behavior.
Yeah.
But he does have those moments that, like, remind you he is a human being. Yeah. And he's not a complete sociopath. Right. Like, he knows what he's doing.
Which could be a good or a bad thing because, again, you're humanizing, like, or you're almost you're allowing this portrayal to be like, he's not that bad. But I do think it's necessary because these people are still human.
I think the key is that it's raw. Like, because the way I interpret this film is like I don't think it's saying it's good.
It's definitely not.
But it's just honest. It's like it's not trying to make like a statement about morality. It's like this is just who he is.
Yeah.
It's shitty and like that's just how he operates.
And I was gonna say too that it feels like a more realistic portrayal of an absent father who excuses his behavior for the work and the grind and bringing the bills home and he's like they have moments of self-reflection where they're like, damn, should I be here more often?
Bad.
Yeah, they're like, well, I gotta grind.
Well, it's dynamic. It's like you can be a deadbeat father but be funny and be charming and be talented, and it's like all those statements about his character are valid. Like you know, and I think what's interesting is the film doesn't like try to segregate these ideas like, oh, like this is the tragic portion. It's like these are all him, and you can love him, you can hate him, but that's just him.
Yeah.
It doesn't mince emotions about it, you know?
And look, he literally leaves the audition to go do other work. He immediately runs to a theater where they're watching the film that he's editing, and
with the implication that there's hours in this editing room too.
Right. Oh, they've been in there for months. And you can see the other workers and the other editors who are in the room with him being like, bro, again? Like, we've been here for so long. Like, how many times are we going to watch this fucking movie?
Yeah.
And he says, one line that stuck with me, I wrote it down. It says, do you think Stanley Kubrick ever gets depressed?
Yeah. It's funny that you said that because that was literally, as soon as you mentioned that scene, scene, that was the first line that popped over
No
my head.
way.
Because it's so funny. Because I love that
Our
line.
minds.
I know, dude. We're literally synchronized.
I know the mic got that. I know the mic got that
the
dap
mic
up.
got that
Yeah.
fucking dap
Woo,
up. There we
fuck
go.
yeah, baby.
But yeah, it's like and I think that's another thing about him too is like he does talk a lot of shit, and he is a character that swindles people.
Yeah.
But the one thing he is truly committed to in this world is his art, and that's the one time he's still sarcastic. Obviously, he's still his goofy self, but that's the one time you ever see him sort of get serious, where it's like his demeanor changes, and it's like, oh, this is not the like swashbuckler anymore.
Yeah,
this is an actual guy working. Like,
yeah, exactly. And I mean, even then, at the editing room, he finally has a chance to like relax and go out. The guys that are editing in the room with him, they're like, hey, we're gonna go out drinking. Like, come and join us. He's like, nah, I'm gonna go home.
Yeah, he said time to clock out.
Yeah, and he clocks out by going home to sleep with another woman. Yeah, and then by the time he gets there, then we get
the new job starts. Infidelity.
Yeah, exactly. The new job of infidelity.
Talking into infidelity.
My goodness. And that's when we get him when he gets caught cheating.
Yeah.
And we already talked about how like the minute that he gets caught.
Also, this
just
leads,
flirting.
And it's funny too because we've been talking about this cheating, but there's a very poignant thing to mention about this person he's cheating with. This is the actress who he got the home phone number from.
Right.
So it's also a thing of like you're watching this worker come over to her boss's house.
Right.
And
horrible.
like the implication, and it's like it's like watching this scene. I was of two minds. One, I was completely repulsed. I'm like, ew, like this is the most male brain behavior ever put on film. But it's almost like his desire. It's almost sympathetic in this respect, where you can tell he's an addict, and like even when he's like in these sexual situations, it doesn't have this feeling of power where he's like, oh, like I'm trying to exercise this over you. He's a sick guy, and he's just like, I can't stop, and that's where I felt those mixed reactions in my soul, where I was like, it is gross, but it's like it's not even trying to make me feel like this is badass or awesome. It's like it's like, no, this is just like a sickness. Like,
well, even the conversation feels so weird because she's like, you think I'm gonna make it? Like she's talking about like her success in the field, and he's like, nah.
No. Well, he's even like, it's funny because he has like that line with her where he's like, I don't even know how anyone else would like answer that. I don't fucking know. And then she's like, well, give me your honest opinion. And then I love when he's just like, no. Like,
if you want to know the truth,
And it's like, even in that moment, he can't lie. Like, it's funny. Like, even when you would think the natural reaction would be like, oh, like, you try to say something to make them feel better about themselves, positive, encouraging. Yeah. He still can't drop the demeanor, and he's just like, nah.
I think it's mainly because it's about art. Because he's a liar. He's a liar. He's a cheater.
Compulsive.
He's a scumbag.
Even talking with death, as we're gonna mention later.
Right.
He constantly.
Actually, I want to jump immediately into it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But he is a liar. But because she's asking about the arts. Yeah. That's when he gives his honesty. Maybe he's only honest. He's only faithful to art. That's it. That's it. That's the only thing he's faithful to.
And those scenes are such a great I don't know, juxtaposition against his scenes in the realm of man, because it's like. Now that you kind of know that he's lying and he's boasting about it even at times, watching these scenes becomes even more kind of terrifying, because it's like, deep down he doesn't feel this way. No. But he could just without even flinching, just be dishonest.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, this is where we start talking about the woman in the veil, right? And the woman in the veil, as you have mentioned, and again, if you've kept up with us right now and you have not watched all that jazz and you're still listening, we highly recommend you to go watch it, as we're going to dive into a little bit of spoilers and our own interpretations of the woman in the veil. And as you mentioned earlier, and I have come to the conclusion too, she's like the angel of death. And we get a little bit of a flashback into how he was raised in a very interesting way, because they're at the nightclub, burlesque club, where his mom's like cooking and like doing a bunch of shit, but she works there at the club. And so he was raised at a burlesque club where they sexualized women, and rich white men came to pay and see and have them tap dance for them.
Also, to add to your point, and I want to get into this scene as well, because it sort of ties into the angel of death. That also leads to a very traumatic memory that they don't dissect, like they don't.
But wait! Before we hop into that, there's one thing that she mentions, the mom mentions, that I do want to touch on, because it happens right. The thing you're talking about happens right after this. But she talks to the angel of death, and she says, "Ever since he was so high, he's had a crush on you, and he's always been chasing the lady in white, which is the angel of death. And I found that so interesting. Now, even like looking at, like rewatching it fully in its entirety, it's just like he's always been chasing death. And like he's never given a fuck about where he goes. He just wants to chase his art and get to the end. He wants to finish it, which is so crazy.
He
and
craves the results.
Yeah, and then we see the results of his life and how what it becomes because of this traumatic incident that you were talking about. What happened to that traumatic incident?
So this traumatic scene is sort of displayed without much follow-up or deeper analysis. And I think it's interesting because in the sequence, he gets sexualized by older women because at the time, he was 19, trying to get his sort of his start in the industry, sort of like a blue-collar method, working a bar or working a club.
Yeah.
And he gets sexualized and, he's young and inexperienced and he runs away and he runs on stage because he's also called up. And he has a stain on his pants of ejaculation, and he's laughed at by the entire audience because he's tap dancing, and obviously it seems absurd to this audience. There's like a young man tap dancing in a funny suit and there's cum on his pants. I think what's powerful about it is that it just cuts to him the next scene, and it's a solemn look on his face. And I think the nonverbal cue of how much that humiliation weighed on him throughout his life, and also not putting himself in a position to be humiliated again, because his entire egotism, and this sort of leads me into my analysis of the second and third act, is that his egotism and his sort of, guarded nature with how he feels, and even being honest about how he feels, because that's why we've discussed how he can't be vulnerable with anyone, and he always operates with sarcasm.
Yeah.
This was so deeply ingrained in him that I sort of see a lot of that egotism now as sort of like a coping mechanism where, because obviously if we're being serious about gender politics for a second, men back then weren't going to therapy and men weren't self-reflecting.
For sure.
So I see this man who's like bundled up with a lifetime of issues, and this sort of bravado he's manifested is like both him, who he truly is, but it's also a response that even he's not willing to acknowledge.
Yeah, and it ties into a lot of things, right? The hypersexualism that he has throughout his entire life, where to the point where the execs are talking about his new songs or everything that he's written. They're like, can he talk about anything else? And honestly, it's just a trauma response because we didn't see that. And also, it's affected the way that he loves, and it's interesting because not that long after, the angel of death asks him when he says, "Do you believe in or do you love or something?" I forget the question, but he says, "I believe in saying I love you, not believing in love." Yeah. But he says he believes in saying I love you, which is a very interesting thing.
He understands its power.
Yeah.
Right? And also that leads, just to add to his like love of the craft. I mentioned the rose speech he gives and how he talks about, when I look at a rose, I look up at God and say, how'd you do it? And right there, because think about it, a rose is just a product of nature. Like that, there's the creation of that is not beyond our understanding, but there's an element to it we'll never fully understand. And I think that sort of illustrates his madness, where he's like, I want that perfection. And like, even when he's like doing good, there's always that doubt in him, like it's never enough. And that it's also even that addiction. It's a symbol for that addiction as well.
Yeah. And then, we also have, I found it very interesting when he is arguing with his mistress. They're at the hotel, and she's like, "Oh, like I think I'm gonna go to the play, and I got offered this gig to do a play." And he's like, "Yeah, take it. I don't give a fuck, like, bro.
I don't give a fuck.
Let me know. Holler at me when you back."
And then to add like salt to the wound, he's like, he looks at her and he says, "I love you," just to be contrasted where he's like chatting with the angel of death, and he's like, well, like it works in those moments when I want what I want.
Yeah.
and it
followed up by a very funny line from the mistress who says, I just wish you weren't so generous with your cock. And his reaction to that line, wasn't to be like, damn, like have a moment of self-reflection. He like laughs and he's like, oh, I could use that for a play.
Use that line. He's still working.
Yeah, he's still working. Even in a moment of distress and like actually like having to sit with someone and face real conflict. Yeah, and consequence.
Really reflect.
He's like, I'm going to turn that into a play.
Yep, that trauma response comes back, and what does he do? He turns on the Playboy charm, and now he can't take anything serious.
I have written down right here also another important thing, because I noticed that whenever he is pushed on his ego, is when death flashes before his eyes. I noticed that. So we get this segue about him living with the two women and how he was like in this relationship, and you know everything was fun and dandy until like one of them was like, oh god damn it, like I just can't be in this relationship because I want you all to myself. And the angel of death pushes him and says, what if the note wasn't about you? What if it wasn't for you?
And he actually stops.
And he stops. He's pushed on his ego. He's pushed on. He's faced with some pushback, and death flashes before his eyes.
Yep.
The machine is slow. Like, the machine is breaking. I wrote down right here. The machine is being tested.
It's being tested,
and it's starting to fall apart. And you know, but immediately the machine goes back on because we get to the next scene where he's in the cutting room and the producer comes in yelling at him like, yo, like, what the fuck? Like, we're 2 times over budget. We're 7 months
late
over.
On the project.
Yeah, we were supposed to do 4 months of editing. We're 7 months of editing. And he doesn't even respond to him. He just says, sit down.
Yeah.
Watch me work, bitch.
Yeah, watch my shit.
Yeah, well, my shit clean.
He literally says, watch this fuego get shown to you. Yeah.
Yeah, shut the fuck up. He doesn't even wait for him to watch it.
No, he doesn't.
He knows his guys.
He leaves.
Yeah, he's like, holler at me, I'm not done yet. He doesn't even tell him like it's done. He's like, I'm not done yet. Sit down, watch greatness. And then he says, what does he say? Do you remember or no?
No.
He says, oh my God, it is better. God help us all. God help us all. And I think that's such a good line because it's just like everyone is suffering at the hands of this man's great art. Everyone, money, businesses, women, his daughter. Everyone suffers for great art.
Well, and I actually want to use 2 things you said as a jumping point. The machine breaking down and his daughter. Now, one thing before the machine starts breaking down, and I will get into that right after this point, the one time you ever see sincerity in him in this entire film is when he's with his daughter. And I think those scenes are the most heartwarming and honestly empathetic from him because it's the one time he ever shows restraint. Like, I always think of when his daughter jokes like, oh yeah, I could get a brother, you need to stop screwing around, blah,
I have
blah,
that
blah.
on my notes, exactly the same thing.
And I love that line where he's like, hey, he's like, watch your mouth, like, you know, and it's
as if his daughter, like, his daughter's literally can see it. She's not fucking stupid.
No,
she knows his dad's a womanizer, a performer, a writer, a dancer. Like, she knows who her dad is.
And I think it's also really humorous that like the mention of having a brother hooking up with a woman, he's like, whatever, but then the moment she's like, you need to slow down, he goes, hey, watch your mouth. Like, right, that's too far.
And again, like, and guess what, he's once again pushed, and once again we get another flash of death that happens right before his eyes, where the machine is tested again, and then we cut to the machine bleeding back up, which is eye drops, medicine,
music.
It's time. What does he say? Showtime, folks. Well, and it must go on. The show must go on.
Absolutely. And that bounces to my final point I was about to make, where
talk to me.
That's when you start seeing intersplice clips of him dying. Like,
right.
This is like he'll be smoking and coughing, and it'll flash on the screen later in the film him in a hospital bed. And that's when I agree with your analysis, because that's when you start to feel the consequences really start to boil. It's the slow burn. He's like, okay, like, I'm getting the pangs from God, like, stop it. And he's not listening.
Yeah. But again, I do love that it just immediately is like, every time it tries to slow down, he's like, we got to work harder. And so the next scene is followed up by him tutoring Victoria, where she has that breakdown. And what I find that whole scene to be so interesting, it's slow, it's tender, it's harsh, but he's a good teacher. He's a good teacher. He doesn't lie to his students.
No.
And he even tells her, he's like, I can't make you the best dancer or a great dancer. I can make you better. I can make you better.
I can get you through this day. I can get you through this piece.
Yeah, and again, the way this scene ends is so good, because his work is so fucking respected that when she nails it, he goes up, he doesn't say amazing job. He kisses her on the forehead and he says better. And the room erupts in claps for better. The room, like, she's crying tears of joy. Everyone's like cheering for like the slight approval. It's not even like he's like, hey, you killed that shit. Yeah. He's just like, good job. Like, better. Yeah, we're getting somewhere. And that caused the room to erupt. And that's the level of respect they have for him.
And it's like the method to his madness works. It's like, you know, that's another thing about Bob Fosse and what he's saying that I think is really fascinating, is that even though he is a self-destructive person, it produces results.
It's terrible.
And it's terrible, but like, you know what? There is a through line in him that does produce something worth noting.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like this contrast with the madness of it that produces results. It just creates this mixed feeling. It's like, oh my God, you're a bad guy, but damn, you do release things that are noteworthy.
Yeah. Even amidst the chaos, the sadness, the heaviness of this movie, I do think we cut to like one of the more funnier scenes, or I guess that's how you say it, right? One of the more funnier scenes.
Yeah.
Which cuts to his doctor fucking smoking a cigarette, coughing and checking his lungs
and coughing.
Yeah. And he turns around.
It's like a Looney Tunes guy.
Yeah, and he turns around and he's also smoking and coughing. And the execs are there. They're seeing this. They don't give a fuck about Joey. They're just like, is he good?
And
they're all seeing this. They're there. They're looking at. They're seeing what's going on.
Yeah. Well, and that also leads into that running gag with all the businessmen, where it's like so much is happening: his health, the budget, his set issues, and like all they can ever muster is like, how will this affect our bottom dollar?
Right.
And
to the very end.
And even he points the absurdity of it. He's like, you and scheduling, like this, and how it's like, art uses these like sort of firecracker human beings that create so much beauty and create things that stand the test of time.
Yeah.
And the people that fund it are just always the same monotonous fucking boardroom robots.
My God.
And it's like they're so robotic they don't even realize he's making fun of them sometimes.
I mean, it's all the way to the very end, and I don't want to jump too far ahead, but I mean, even when they're doing even when he's being checked for his health at the very end, when we get that real health scare, all they're thinking about, they're literally in the back rooms, they're just talking about what the fuck's going to happen with the play, how they're going to fund it. They're only worried about their bottom line. That's all they're worried about.
They talk about insurance when he's dying. Like, come on.
We'll come back to more about the executives, because I do think at the end we see more of the evil nature of these execs.
Yeah.
But the next scene, again, we're still peeling back the layers of who Joey is as a human, because when he crashes out, he can't stand the play. He's like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, this is ass. This is trash. He has a conversation with his wife, who's practicing in the other, or his ex-wife, who's practicing in the other room, and they're talking, and she's like, you do this every time, yada yada yada, and they start talking about their marriage, and I think this is all a conversation about what he's truly faithful to, because, and this is when I really realized, like, this man is not faithful to anything but his art, because she talks to him. Yeah, she's like, oh, like, they start talking about the women that he's been with. He's like, yeah, what about that woman? Because he's like, you've never been faithful to me. You were never faithful to me. Yeah. And then he's like, oh, well, maybe you cheated on me. Like, typical response.
That's the push of his ego. Yeah. Then he starts rattling off, oh, well, like, you might have cheated on me.
Right.
Or
typical response.
My favorite line, and this is like the biggest deadbeat quote of all time. He says, you act like being faithful is the most important thing in, I think he says, the world or the universe. And it's like, that's the most childish he becomes.
What a fucking bullshit excuse. But, the conversation starts to lead like, oh, like she questions him, do you even remember the name of the woman that like you were cheating on me with at this like trip? And he starts like naming off names, like, oh, this. And she's like,
each one wrong, by the way.
Nope. And then she finally says the name. And the minute that he says the name, he's like, oh, fuck, like, I am wrong. Like, he starts, again, the ego starts to break. And then what does he do? He's like, oh, wait, I can do something with my play. And he, like, has a breakthrough when he's pushed. When he realizes he's wrong, he has a breakthrough. He's like, oh, shit, I can actually do it. And he leaves. And his wife, like, I think, like, his ex-wife starts to have, like, a breakdown. And the piano, the arrangement guy, he's like, oh, fuck, like, does that mean we're going to get our number cut? And she's not crying because the number's going to get cut. She's crying because, like, she's like, this man is literally never going to change. Like, this is who he is. He doesn't give a fuck about anything but the art. And that includes, it doesn't matter who he damages along the way. It doesn't matter the woman that he cheated on her with. It doesn't matter about her or the arrangement or the number. It's all about just the art, and that's it. He will
rupture any piece to just gain anything to push forward.
Yeah. And of course, like, we've been talking about the story for the duration of the podcast, but, I do think it goes without saying that the direction and the lighting, it has done. It's subtle, but it's done so well to keep you engaged throughout the story. But then, the director, hit me with the name of
Fosse.
Bob Fosse. Bob Fosse has a slight moment to be like, actually, let me show you what the fuck I'm working with.
Yes.
And then we get the pitch scene, the scene where they're pitching
the airline musical
to the execs. And I mean, the way the camera is used, even during the lit up scene, was crazy.
Yes.
The movement, how tense and sexual it was. If you could feel it through the screen, I felt the sweat, I felt the tension.
Yeah.
I was aroused.
The film,
I was raked up.
It's almost like it breaks film pacing and morphs into music pacing.
Yeah.
And it's like there's a literal like it devolves to a point, or actually I should say evolves.
Yeah.
To a point where it's like there's an actual rhythm to the scene, like a beat for beat.
Right.
To the dialogue in these scenes. And one thing I love about the musical sequence of the airline pitch is like there is a band in the back obviously doing the rhythm, the drums, all that stuff. But what's funny is it's like it melds with the actual score of the sequence.
Yeah.
And it's no longer just like diegetic sound within that, like it's the like they have manifested the actual soundtrack and it's in the scene with them.
It's cut up to it.
And it's cut exactly, and the editing matches every single note, every single move, and it's almost like you just transform with it, and you're just you're teleported to this new world with them.
And I mean, that's just the lit up scene. And then I do love when it just like they turn down the lights and then they strip. And I love this line from the exec. He's just like, there goes our family audience. And I was like, and I thought to myself, I'm like, man, fuck the family audience. If this is what the director wants, if that's their vision, if that's their story, if that's their art, then that is what needs to be said. It doesn't matter about who they got to market this to, how much money they're gonna make. Like, it's not about the fucking money.
It's like the cynicism runs so deep. It's like even in the face of like a testament to human ingenuity, all they can think about is that bottom dollar.
Yep, exactly.
And as we, the audience, are watching this just sort of like rhythm play out in front of us and we're just enamored with it, these fucking old codgers can just, all they can muster is their bottom dollar.
Yeah, and I do want to point out, I have it written down, the drummer in this scene, as a drummer myself, I was like, God damn, bro was going the fuck in. It sounded so good, bro. The music, the whole music number was amazing. The dancing was amazing. The choreo was incredible. And the lighting, of course, that goes without saying. We mentioned earlier.
The harsh black with like the creamy moonlight coming in, and then all the smoke kind of just like hovers like almost like an entity, like
a cloud, if they're in the airlines.
But that's what adds to that ethereal energy where it's like I felt teleported by it, and it's like, even though I was like studying for my final, as I mentioned, I actually stopped what I was doing, and I just noticed my mouth was literally like just slack jawed, and I was breathing out loud as I just
got mouth open.
No, dude, I was breathing heavy. I was sucked into this sequence.
Yeah, man, it's a beautiful.
And seeing it in a theater, by the way, is exponentially.
Oh, it doesn't even come close.
I can't even describe it with verbal language. Like, it's crazy. It's almost like a ritual in its own way.
The sequence following the dance number is the sequence of the mistress and the daughter giving him like his own personal show. And I do feel like this is the calm before the storm.
Yes.
Because we are shown the life that he could have had, right? A family, the mother, the other mother with another family that his daughter so desperately wanted. Yeah. And you could tell on his face he's actually happy, he's enjoying it, and he's like taken away for a second. But again, it is almost like a push to the ego. It's a push to the machine. Yeah. It is a push to the machine because he's happy. He's in this moment. And then what happens? This is once again when we get another moment of the machine being tested. Right after the dance sequence happens with his daughter and the mistress, and there's so much joy, and it feels very cutesy. It feels like a family moment.
There's a wholesome energy to it.
Yes, there it is. It's
an actual just a display of affection. They love him. He's part of their family, and it's like he finally gets to hone in on fatherhood for one moment.
But then the machine scene where he does the eye drops and the drugs, I noticed that this one was different because when he goes for the drugs, it's done in a slower fashion, and he puts his hands up to say "Showtime, folks," but he doesn't say it. He doesn't say it. He's stumbling. The machine is actually breaking down at this point. And even as he says "Showtime, folks," he starts coughing, and he's coughing up like a lung. It's bad. It's really, really bad.
Well, and then isn't that when it essentially leads to the moment?
It does lead to the moment. And I mean, that the build up to the moment is so good because
crazy.
We're at the actual screenplay reading of the play, and the sound design in that scene is fucking incredible because there's none. Because there's none. There's none. And it's just small little creaks.
Yeah. And he sort of it almost frightens him too because it's like the first tangible taste of loneliness he has.
Oof.
See, the whole movie has been loud, rambunctious, energetic. He has this angina attack, deafness, and everyone's laughing. He can't hear anything, and I think the symbol that shows you when it's like the tide fully comes crashing down, or at least starts to, is when he's holding the pencil behind him.
That's what I thought too.
And there's this beautiful visual where he's sitting in this silence and he's startled. He's like, oh shit, because he's also being a little selfish. He's like, is this it? And he's like, I don't want to go now. And when he breaks the pencil behind him, that's the rest of the film is different. That's when the transition into just like degradation of his body and his mental state just begins.
And also, I love the fact that we don't see the angina attack on screen.
No,
we just see his ex. Yeah. We know something's up. The ex-wife is like running out of the room, and she's like, something's up. The mistress is seen running across the street. We get the executives in a taxi car where we finally get a sense of something that's going on because they go, well, we don't know what's going on yet, but we'll see. We don't want to jump to any conclusions. And then we get to the doctor's room, and then we get to the hospitals, and then we realize, oh my fucking God, like, bro is dying. Like, something's going on.
Oh, and the sort of wide-eyed just fear that sets into him.
Yeah.
You know, he's still trying to be like, oh, I have a reading to go to. I have to schedule the set design. And the doctor, it's literally almost like life puts this doctor in front of him as like a stone brick, just a block.
Slow the fuck down.
Literally, he just looks at him and says, you can leave, but you will die.
Yeah.
And it's almost like the world has literally stopped everything because it's like, we've tried everything, we've given you hints, and now the consequence begins, buddy.
And also, I found the scene or the shot of his ex-wife crying. I don't know why that moved me so much because I think that like I was just seeing a woman who really loved this man despite him doing her so dirty for so long. Filthy. And despite it all, she still loves this man so much. And seeing her cry like broke something in me. I was just I felt devastated because this man has brought people a lot of fucking pain.
Yeah. Well, and I think it sort of brings it starts the engine of finality for him because, you know, as we said, he's always on the dash. He doesn't have time to think. And now, what happens when you take the legs away from a gazelle? It can't frolic away.
It can't do everything all at once.
Now he's literally condemned to this hospital bed, and almost like in a sort of like cosmic like sense of punishment, he's bound to his consequence, and now all he can do is gaze at it and just try his best to like, I guess, grapple with it. It's so hard. It's so heavy hitting, and his physical state. The rest of the movie, I noticed. This is when he just looks sick. Like, the first two acts, you know, he obviously looks like he's got some wear and tear.
Right.
But this is when it's like...
He's a walking zombie, bro.
He's vulnerable.
Yeah, he's a walking zombie.
All that facade, that Playboy charm is stripped right out of him, and there's none funny anymore.
And even when it's stripped from him, what the fuck happens next? He ends up partying, drinking, smoking. He's flirting with the nurses.
Even in death, he can't rummage anything resembling like taking serious action.
My God, it's and this is where we truly see everything start to dwindle down.
Yeah.
And you know, we get to the final moments where the movie turns into the final act, the final performance of his life.
I was gonna say the final performance for
the
being
final,
real. The final Gideon play, and it's not even a play.
And it is. I mean, it's one of the greatest third acts I've ever seen in my fucking life. And, you know, the way that everything is displayed. And you were joking about, or not joking, you were saying how this third act, how it's the daughter, the mistress, and his ex-wife. Yeah. And they're dancing, and it's a jovial song, almost like poking fun of him like, hey, you had everything. You had everything, you threw it away, and like, you're never going to see your daughter again, by the way.
It's like, hey, fucker, you put your hand to the stove. Here's the burn mark.
Right.
Like,
finally, it's catching up to you.
Yeah, and and then I also think it's like his most desperate display of wishing to live comes in this moment. Because he's literally got a tube in his throat. He is bound. He can't evade. And I love the shot where they do that sequence, and for once you see in his eyes, this is just Roy Gideon. Not the character, not the artist. This is the bare bones man on the bed. And the fact that you can just see in his eyes so much pain, and it's almost like the entirety of his life is felt in that moment.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite shots in the third act was the three women that matter most to him in his life on those ladders.
The dance sequence.
And not even the dance sequence, when the women with the feathers are dancing around him.
Yeah.
And the three women that he cares most about in his life are on these ladders, and they're crying for him for the pain that they've caused him and the pain that they will cause him when he leaves. And it's these strips of paper that go down their eyes as if they were tears. Yeah. And I found that to be so moving and so heartbreaking. And then cut to the next number where it's his daughter smoking a cigarette, dancing and on a stage. And I thought, like, your daughter has seen you do all this. Like, she has a good chance of turning out just like you, because this is exactly what you showed her. Yeah. A smoker, a dancer, someone who puts herself on stage and has no regard for anybody else. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also, there's a disturbing layer to it, because even in this moment of spirituality where he's confronting mortality, he can only view this moment of like reflection through the lens of production. Because as this sequence of, you know, his love, the people who love him in his life sort of yearning for him to change, he is literally as a character next to his bed going, cut, and it's like he's still working, and but it's now there's like this layer of, it's just macabre, because now there's no production, but he's still only capable of viewing any sort of like emotional impact through the lens of production.
I also want to point out that before the dancing sequences start, right before, the angel of death unveils herself. And I found that to be so interesting. It's such a good touch, because it's like, I'm here, and your time is it's very near.
Yeah, our round table of flirtation is over. Now you're literally gonna live with me.
Yeah, it is. It's time to settle down, and settling down is with death. And you know,
settling down does not mean family. Death is settling down.
Death is settling down. Jesus, that's one hell of a conclusion that we've come to at the end for this. But that's exactly what it is. And I mean, the final number is so cathartic. So cathartic. And you know, everyone, or at least the majority of people who have been in his life, are at the final number. They're there for the screening. They're there for the play. They're there. They are there to celebrate his life. And I found that to be so beautiful. And I was just thinking to myself, like, how I've thought about my funeral, and as crazy as that sounds, you know, I feel like a lot of people nowadays too would want their funeral to be something that's jovial and happy, you know? And like, I don't want people to be crying at my funeral. I want people to be dancing. I want people to be smoking. I want people to be turning up.
That's hilarious you say that, because it's like the sequence earlier with the people yearning for him, it's a happy song, and the colors are joyous and loud and vibrant, and still, even in his moment of like cheer, like he's like, yeah, you know what, I had the swag, I had that shit on, I'm on my way out. The lyrics still don't lie, and I love, my favorite little touch is when he walks up to the wife, and he's hugging his daughter. He's like, goodbye, I'm going to the next realm, and he still looks at her, and in his own way of showing love to her, I love that line where he puts his hand on her face, and he's like, now I won't have to lie to you anymore.
God.
And the smile she gives him of, you know, appreciation for all the light he did bring, but that subtle little sarcasm to the end where it's like, but I also gave you so much grief. And it's like she doesn't even cry or anything. She just smiles, and it's like, you know what? It is what it is.
She's letting go.
It's letting go. And also just, I guess, finding peace in the fact that, yes, he's the father of her child, but like he was also a monster, and both are true, and in a weird, strange way, she's gonna miss the monster in a sense. Yeah. It's like, because that's who he was.
Of course,
you know?
I think she'll always miss him. Yeah, and you know, of course, we get to the final sequence of him. Oh God, what an incredible ending shot of him just being transported down this hallway into the arms of the angel of death.
Yes.
And right as we get the close up of his eyes and body bag. And it's over. And the song rolls about show business. What is I forget what the song is.
It's like some old like Showtimey song.
Yeah,
like
and it's just like the show's over, like guys, it's done, and it's about show business. And I think back to the point of like the executives and how they were, you know, we didn't really touch upon this, but the executives were, I love that it was splicing between his surgery and them talking about what's more beneficial for us. And they were talking about, well, the actual best benefit is that if he dies before this date, then you guys actually get a profit without ever having to open up. Yeah. And they were like, "Ooh, I like that." They don't give a fuck about him. He's on he's on his potential deathbed during that surgery. Yeah. And they're like, "Yeah, maybe it's better that he dies."
Well, and it goes back to a lot of the jokes he's made throughout the film about show business, where he's like, it's really a freaky, filthy business, and like, you know, they have people like me, but it's like we're just kind of used and exchanged. Yeah. And I love that final shot because it's juxtaposed with this beautiful dance sequence we were just talking about. But what I love is that it's all inside his head. So it's like his greatest work was just a celebration within him about his life. And then that final shot to me really left a void in my chest because it's like it only mattered to him. Yeah. Like in the end, only he saw it.
He was selfish.
He was selfish. And just as he is alone in the end, he's alone with his work in the end.
Yeah.
And and even just rewatching it yesterday and even the last 10 minutes right now when we just did a little, recap, I just felt this just emptiness sink in, and I almost didn't even want to stand.
I think why it hit so heavy for me too, the ending, was just realizing like, I think I missed him. It was like, it was so sad. Like I felt a deep sadness for his loss, and obviously he's not a real, well, even though even though the guy is loosely based on Bob Fosse. I was so attached to this character, and I felt sympathy for him. And I think even as creatives, I felt a little bit of myself in him, in like, not in the worst ways, but just someone who wants to create something to give to the world. Yeah. And I think that's why this movie impacted me so much. And so if there's any final thoughts that I want to leave with this movie is just seeing an artist really push the limits. And I don't think that it's right for it to come at a cost for everyone around you. But it is so important for people to create stuff and let it all out. And maybe our legacy will be remembered or it won't. But to create something is to let a piece of ourselves go. And I think that's what Bob Fosse did with this movie. And I can't recommend this movie enough. Those are my final thoughts. I don't know if you have any final thoughts to leave with the audience.
I think my greatest impression of this film is that art is all-consuming, yet it's our behavior along the way that truly defines, like, the impact it leaves on the world.
Throw them bombs. Throw them flex bombs out.
And I guess the final, sentence I'll leave y'all with is that, as beautiful as his work was, there's a price to pay for our behavior.
Yeah.
And I think
I love that.
And the beauty is that both are correct. And that's the madness of it. And just as you feel confused but also happy at the end of it, that's life.
Yeah. If you have not seen this movie, and if you love,
check it out.
I don't even think that you have to love movies or be creative. No. You have to watch this movie.
This is just a timeless piece of art.
It is actually incredible, and the fact that it is loosely based on Bob Fosse's life is also just another layer that absolutely blows my mind. We've already ranted way too long about this movie, but I feel like it was so necessary for this movie. It was necessary. So necessary for this movie.
This is a film worth gushing over every aspect.
Yes, go ahead and follow us on our social media of Working Class Frame Rate on TikTok. We are working on our Instagram, so make sure you guys just follow us on there for right now. We'll have more info on our social media. Maybe by the time this is out, we'll have our shit out. But yeah, more episodes on the way. Subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen to us from. This is Josue Arellano.
Austin Cummings.
Working Class Frame It. We'll see y'all in the next one.
Sayonara.